Fellow councillors, I'd like to call this meeting to order if I could, please. And for affirmation, may I call on Councillor Pelosa, please.
The City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for councils, standing or advisory committee meetings, and information upon request. To make a request for any city service, please contact accessibility@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425.
I will ask for any disclosures of pecuniary interest. And if I can't see you, please wave a lot. Thank you very much. I'm not aware of any items for the consent agenda. Scheduled items, Council's Strategic Plan 2019-23. And that is all about setting the vision, mission, and values of Council that will guide us over the next 4 years. May I call on you, please, to make a presentation?
Well, good afternoon. I'm excited to be here with you this afternoon talking about strategic plan for council term of 2019 to 2023. I have a very brief presentation, and then it's really over to councillors to do some thinking and work with each other around what the vision, mission, and values should be for the next strategic plan. Just a reminder, I shared this with you at our last meeting in December, our last discussion around the strategic plan, giving you a sense of the timeline that you're working towards in terms of a final plan approved by council by the end of April. This month is dedicated to talking today about vision, mission, and values, and at the end of this month, Civic Administration will be tabling for your consideration the outcomes, expected results, strategies, and metrics. Also in this month will be the beginning of community engagement. Some of that occurred through late December as well, carrying into deeper engagement in February. That leaves March for you to reflect on that engagement and debate around Council's strategic plan. Again, looking forward to the finalization by the end of April. So I shared this diagram with you last day in terms of talking about the approach to the strategic plan. And as I said, today's discussion is dedicated to vision, mission, and values. This is quite an important discussion in setting a strategic plan. Collectively, the vision, mission, and values really describe the direction, the purpose, and how we work. They can be inspirational, but they're also a very powerful tool for council to be able to communicate the purpose and direction you wish to move forward with. They are also critical to driving decisions around setting priorities and allocating resources. Essentially, the vision, mission, and values together describe the why, the what, and the how. So it's quite an important conversation at the beginning of a strategic planning process. This is the current strategic plan, vision, mission, and values. The vision states a leader in commerce, culture, innovation, our region's connection to the world. The vision, articulating the purpose, is at your service, a respected and inspired public service partner, building a better city for all. And the values are individual responsibility, collective accountability, collaboration, and innovation. Just after the last SPPC meeting, you were discussing the strategic plan. We embarked on an early community engagement process to hear from the community around that current set of vision, mission, and values. The community was asked for their initial input in terms of those three statements, what words or ideas were most important to you, and were there new words or ideas that were missing? In terms of the feedback that was received, we've captured it here for you. With respect to the vision, we heard back that the words that were important to folks that responded were culture, innovation, commerce, connection, leader, world. Some of the suggested additions included diversity, sustainability, community, environment, compassion, neighborhoods. In terms of mission, what we heard back was that what was most important to folks was building a better city for all, the words of service, partner, inspired, and respected. We also heard that in terms of suggested additions, community, respected, diversity, modern, inspiring, transparent, and accountable, and responsive. In terms of the values, the feedback on the values was that perhaps they could be a bit more specific in terms of people actually understanding what they might mean, improve upon and build upon that current set of values, and also consider adding values around understanding, fairness, collaboration, innovation, inclusion, and some other additional suggestions were caring, compassion again, diversity and inclusion, stewardship, equity and equality, integrity and accountability. So we share those with you as you, a piece of information to consider as you're having your discussions this evening. So in terms of supporting your discussions around what the vision, mission, and values for the next strategic plan 2019 to 2023 will be, we're going to have you break into 3 groups of 4 to 5, so kind of 5, 4, 5 in the areas that you're sitting. And really, we're asking that you spend the next period of time. We're suggesting an hour, but we'll check in to see how you're doing in terms of looking at the current set of vision, mission, and values and making whatever changes you like, whether that's an entirely new version, whether you've got a couple of versions. That's what we're asking you to do over the next little while. And then we'll have each group report out, and then council can engage in a discussion around whether you wish to seek community feedback on all the versions that are tabled this evening, or you want to narrow that down to a fewer number. That's really up to you in terms of what you'd like to do at that point. So we've got kind of flip charts there behind you. We also have pieces of paper to help you do that, and I have staff here who can help you in any way you wish. But that's what we would be asking you to do. Each group look at vision, mission, values, and determine what changes you might like to do to the current set, whether it's an entirely new version or you're making edits to the existing. I'll turn it back to you, Your Worship.
Well, thank you, Lynn. Before we have our breakout groups, and I'll touch on that in just a moment, do you have any broader questions for Lynn before we break into that? Councillor Squire.
Through you, Mr. Chair. You talked about the community feedback or engagement that we did in December. It's important to me to know how many people are we talking about. We're a city of 400,000 people, so I want to be careful that we're weighing it in the manner that it should be weighed. In other words, if it was 100 people, that's different than 5,000 people to me. So I'd like to know that.
Thank you for the question, and that's important information, as you say. So just over 1,000 people viewed the information, and we received just over 90 contributions. 90. Now, you'll recall that this was from December 19th till the end of last week. So this was, and I would also just state, very initial feedback. You're entering into a deeper engagement period starting tomorrow based on the work you do today through to the end of February on this and the outcomes and expected results that will be tabled on January 28th.
Councillor Van Holst.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Ms. Livingston. In the last strategic plan, council set the vision and the values, but I believe the mission, the at your service, a respected and inspired public service partner, was one that staff actually requested we keep in here because they had done quite a bit of work previously. So are we going to have any other requests like this, or are we starting fresh?
Thank you for the question. We're suggesting at this time that all 3 pieces are up for council's consideration and discussion. It is true that the mission was based on a number of years ago, an extensive discussion with civic administration, with employees, as were some of the values, which was why last time council was asked to make minimal changes to them. However, I think we're in a different place now, and it's fair to say that council can look at all 3 pieces together and look at what changes, if any, you might wish to make.
Supplementary.
Yeah, just one more question, if I may. We're coming up with a vision statement for the city. Do other municipalities or other councils have a vision for the city and then one for the council itself in terms of how how they're going to achieve that. It seems like that would be a possibility as well.
Through the chair, in the other municipal strategic plans that I'm familiar with, I'm only aware of a single vision statement. I'm not aware of a separate council vision statement from the overall directional statement.
Councillor Van Meerbergen.
Thank you. And since we're talking about vision, Mayor, I have to say it's a great new look. It's fabulous. My question is, okay, we could settle on a word or indeed phrases starting today for year one, but of course we're doing this for 4 years. So is there not a rigidity that gets set into the system when you try to project that for 4 years, especially when we're supposedly tying it back to the budget? Things change, and they change in a hurry. So what mechanism is there, indeed, if there is one, to get around that problem if we get stuck in some verbiage that doesn't apply in year 2 and 3, maybe it did in year 1?
Through the chair, vision, mission, values aspects tend to be aspirational or inspirational and broad. So likely leave you lots of room to be able to deliver on the priorities you're hoping to achieve. So it's not usually there that there's concern about needing to change those. Of course, council could do that at any point in time through the 4-year period. Where it becomes more important, and you'll see this when we table the outcomes, expected results, strategies, and metrics, that may be where you may be looking for more specific items or flexibility around those items. And that's what largely drives where the resources go. So it's in those pieces that you may want to be looking for greater flexibility, not necessarily in the vision, mission, values piece.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from Ms. Livingston? Well, then seeing none, what we're going to do now is we're going to break our groups into councillors 1 through 5, led by Councillor Helmer, 6 through 9, led by Councillor Squire, and 10 through 14, led by Councillor Turner. And so if you can just cuddle up in your corners, and then I'm going to presume we'll for the second group, we'll meet over here to my right, depending on where you're looking. And so why don't we, and our plan is to take about 1 hour, and we'll check in, and I've asked Ms. Livingston to circle back through if some of the questions that have come up before, other new ones, just to make sure that we keep on track. The only comment I would make as we go through this process is, look, a lot of thought and consideration was given by the previous council, and many members, certainly the majority of council, were part of the vision, mission, and values statements for the city, and I think that held us to good account and gave us the kind of flexibility we were looking for that has carried us certainly 3 years and into our 4th. And I think we can build on those. And in fact, if I might, Ms. Livingston, can I ask you just to come up for one more question from me? Because it seems to me that when I look at some of the comments around, it may well have been mission and values, that seemed a little bit alike prior years. Can you just comment on that? Because this isn't always necessarily about reinventing the wheel as building on it to make it a better wheel. So do you mind just making a brief comment on that, please?
Your Worship, when we were undertaking developing the process for supporting the development of this strategic plan, one of the things we did was ask how the last plan went. And a significant piece of feedback that we got back from council, administration, ABCs was to build on the current plan. So I think to kind of build from the existing language doesn't mean it has to be exactly the same, but good work was done, and there was a sentiment to move forward with that.
Thank you. And again, not to hold us to this this quite tight a timeline, but if you imagine about 15 minutes or so in each of these areas, with the idea that in the last 15 minutes or so that we get collective thoughts, and the person that we've asked to to convene each of the groups. We'll ask them to be the spokesperson, best with the written word as well. And if there's any question about how that design looks, so that we've got some consistency, we have Lynn to assist us as well. So let's break into our groups unless there's any other questions. And for the benefit of all, this will remain televised insofar as it's public. These are all public meetings, but these are quiet discussions that we'll have amongst ourselves before we reconvene back. Thanks very much. So folks, if we can imagine another 10, 12 minutes on this, and then we'll come to presentation, please. Thank you. 5 minutes, folks, please. So just a final wrap up now, please, if we can, and then we'll bring everyone back to the horseshoe. Thank you. I only say that because the middle group is done. Well, thank you all very much. Hope you enjoyed the exercise as much as we did. We were actually led by a lawyer, which is a whole interesting experience. Notwithstanding that, we got through it, I think, extremely well. So, Ms. Livingston, can I turn it back over to you now for next steps, please? Lynn?
Thank you, Your Worship. So what we would ask now is that each group report out on the work you did in terms of the vision, mission, and values. While you're reporting out, my handy assistant here, Cheryl Smith, will record it so you can see it up on the screen. We'll get all of the work recorded, and then there's a decision on whether you wish to seek feedback on all of that work or narrow it down a little bit tonight or however. So we'll get to that point. But the first is the reporting back on vision, mission, and values from each group.
So Lynn, if I may ask, is there like a prize for the best of each?
I don't have any prizes, no. So maybe we'll just go in order of, maybe I'll just call to the left group number 1. And so if someone, whoever the reporter out is for the vision statement or statements, would be great.
Councillor
And if
Helmer.
I could just ask you to say it slowly so we can record it accurately.
I'll just say through the mayor, we divided up who's reporting out, so Councillor Lewis is taking the first one.
Thank you, Councillor Helmer, and through you, Mr. Chair, I'll be sharing my time with Councillor Cassidy and with Councillor Van Holst. On the vision statement to set the direction, our group's consensus was our region's capital, comma, advancing commerce and connecting people through culture, entertainment, and sport as the heart of southwestern Ontario. And I will turn it over to Councillor Cassidy for the mission.
Just bear with us to make sure we've got all of that, please. Just bear with us a moment.
Could you please repeat what was after sport?
As the heart of southwestern Ontario.
Councillor Cassidy, you had another vision or mission? Okay.
My job is mission. Yes, Councillor Helmer is really good at delegating. I guess that's a sign of a good leader. So we settled on a responsive and modern public service partner that fosters change to build a better London for all.
Can I just check that we got it accurately? A responsive and modern public service partner that fosters change to build a better London for all? And now values?
Thank you. I'll take on the values. To get the most value, we decided to go rather than an intersection set, the union. So here are them all, and I've actually sent them to you, so you don't need to write them down. But driven by community, acting with compassion, moving forward through innovation, good governance, energetic collaboration, clear and lateral thinking, calculated risk-taking, strong ROI and SROI, rapid advancement, technological innovation, economic vitality, individual sustainability, municipal self-sufficiency, and personal productivity. We will win.
Probably.
Yeah. I have sent those to you by email as well.
You have boldly gone where no one has gone before. There we have.
So I apologize, but we do need to put them on the screen because we need to hear from each group and so that you can make some decisions about that. So if you just give us a minute, so I think we should, okay. Good governance, driven by community, acting by compassion, moving forward through innovation. Energetic collaboration, clear and lateral thinking, calculated risk-taking, strong, yep. Strong ROI and SOI, value for money, rapid advancement, technological innovation, economic vitality, individual sustainability, municipal self-sufficiency, personal productivity. Did I miss any? I think that's, oh, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Cassidy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first one was, you know, good governance driven, blah, 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 moving forward or acting with compassion, moving forward through innovation, period. And then there should be a space, and the rest was just sort of brainstorming extra ideas and words that could be considered.
So you didn't really mean that last part then? I just wanted to be clear.
We meant it as things possibly to be added or, you know, traded out, things like that.
I think you've taken every word in the lexicon. I think that was very thoughtful of you. Thank you. Ms. Livingston?
And just want to check that we've captured it accurately now. Yes, from the group? Okay, great. Your worship, can we proceed to group number 2?
Yes, please. Please proceed.
Yeah, in the interest of time, I'm just going to read them all and avoid grandstanding. Not that anybody's been grandstanding, but vision, a bold leader in fostering an innovative, prosperous, and livable city connected to the world. And we have them on really big pieces of paper for you, and my clerk will be taking them up. Mission, engaged and responsible public servants building a better city for all. And values will be results-focused, collective accountability, serving a diverse community. That's it.
Brevity is the soul of wit.
Thank you.
Not that I'm trying to express a preference at all. When you have all that, Lynn, then we'll go on to our third group. Thank you. Perhaps while we're waiting for that to be finished, we could ask staff to do the same thing, just talk amongst yourselves. Kidding, but if you wanted to, doubly kidding. Councillor Lewis?
Just as a point of clarification through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Squire, he referred to Councillor Morgan as his page, I believe, or as his clerk. I believe the correct term is page.
I think we need to turn a new page, so when we're set, Ms. Livingston?
I just want to confirm that we've captured the values accurately. It was the 3. Yep, thank you. Your worship, we're happy to move to group number 3.
Group 3 it is, please. Councillor Turner.
Oh my.
Do you want me to bring it over?
We've got a lot
on flip charts here. Yeah, so, well, we were pressed for time, and so we have 3 potential candidate vision statements. I'll read those and hand those over to the clerk. I think basically what we're probably going we wanted to kind of consolidate, but we wanted to move on to the next one, to the mission and then to the values as well. The 3 visions that we had: a diverse community of neighbors building for a prosperous future, a city of unlimited potential where enterprise is valued and dreams are realized, and a resilient community where all are welcomed and valued, building for a prosperous future. As I do like to say, there are 2 things you never want to see being made: policy and sausages. Okay, so this brings us to a mission. Our mission is to complete this in a timely manner. 1 is delivering opportunity with respect, compassion, and accountability. Second one in here is serving in partnership with respect, equity, and inclusion to build a better city for all. And the third is to help Londoners prosper and grow in an inclusive and connected community.
Is it 3 missions or 4? I think we had 3. Okay.
Okay.
And is there a third component?
There's the values. I was just going to let them finish up the typing there, and then I would move on to values. And we kind of brainstormed and put as many words as we could too, like Councillor Van Holst. And we brought it down to 5 in a very undemocratic fashion. So the values are initiative, integrity, compassion, inclusivity, and accountability.
Notwithstanding your first sets of vision and mission, actually, you might set the record for the least amount of words on a statement in this particular instance. Good for Group 3.
So, Your Worship, we're just now showing you, we've deleted the current vision and we're showing you the 5 that were just presented. And if we scroll, I'll just have you have a look at them to make sure that we've captured what you told us accurately. And then we'll just scroll down to the mission. Yes. And again, we'll delete the existing one. And again, there are 5 here for consideration. And then we'll go down to the values. We'll delete the existing, and essentially there are 3 sets of values here with lots of other things to think about.
I just, Len, I would not have had an objection for the original to be bolded as the first point, as a baseline for us to look at. And as you do that,
We
can
can
I
put
just,
that back. Oh, I can put them all in like this.
can I just be clear about process? We don't have to necessarily come up with one single expression unless you think that group 2 really did the best job. So having said that, honestly, if we want to have 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number of statements are there, so be it, because this is now we're going to engage the public with this as well. So you'll tell us a bit more about that as we get there. So if you could just return those original last series of vision, mission, and value statements there, that would be appreciated. Thanks.
Yes, Your Worship, we've put them back up there for consideration. So we're really in your hands, as you say, at this point. The next step, and I'll talk more about what that process looks like, is to seek some feedback from the community on the vision, the mission, and the values. And that can be done with the 5 sets that exist here, or if you wish to narrow them down, that's fine too. We're really in your hands. And the question we would be asking, if there's more than 1 in each section, would be which statements resonate with what the residents envision for their community. That's essentially the question we'll be seeking input on.
So if I might ask you on behalf of council, so here we have a series of statements in each of the areas, and we're going to get some community feedback, important community feedback, to get a sense of that as well. How do we net that down? Would you just, perhaps for my benefit at least, but perhaps for council's, how we're going to have several statements where we might ultimately collage it or put together some statement that reflects what a vision, mission, and values series of statements look like. Can you just take us to that point? I think that would help a little foreshadowing.
So that discussion will occur in early March, when you've had a chance to hear some of the initial feedback and then the deeper feedback through February. And essentially, we'll be providing you with that feedback. And I think what people will likely talk about is which statements resonate, which words resonate. And then it is a process in chambers of saying, well, given the feedback, or I've had a chance to reflect on it and talk to my own constituents, I'm feeling I like number Z, and but I'd like some of the words from number Y. And it'll be a process in chambers of debating back and forth, because that's the way council's set up, and it takes a little bit of time. But for those councillors that were here for the last strategic plan, we were able to get there and landed on a statement everyone felt comfortable with. It's a bit of a dialogue with each other around what it should ultimately look like.
So I'll take any questions that councillors have, but if I might, my inclination, honestly, as I've heard some really thoughtful series of comments from the various groups, that I'm not sure that I'm not sure that I feel ready to be able to comment on any of these individually. I wonder if it might be appropriate if this was to go to the community as some of the thoughts that we've expressed in our own sessions. And we might even ultimately decide that there's some collage of words and things we haven't considered that become part of it. So I'm not sure if it's the pleasure of council to want to go through these, or again, what I'm quite prepared to do is leave it back to council for its consideration, knowing we're going to have community input. Any comments on that from anyone? So if that's the pleasure, oh, excuse me, Councillor Van Meerbergen.
No, I think that makes sense, Mayor. It certainly would go along with that.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins?
Yes, I would be supportive of that. I think it's a great opportunity to pass this on to the community for their feedback. I think there's a lot of similarities here. I wouldn't mind getting a copy of all this as well. So again, I'll leave it to the rest of council.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Turner?
Thanks, Your Worship. I think with this, we see some themes emerging and commonalities between the three groups. The challenge in just taking this is a very raw product. And it's not, I don't see it as the best suited for putting forward for consultation at this point. I know that a lot of these things take a long time, and just the process of watching this. We do this in a very public setting. All our meetings have to be open, and so when you're having like kind of brainstorming sessions as a group, typically you do those kind of cloistered a little bit, and you banty ideas about, and you say, oh, this one good, this one doesn't work as well. We've done that for about an hour now, which is still really kind of touching the surface of it. And so I don't know if there, I recognize you wish to kind of move the meeting along and not be here all night, and I don't want to be here all night either, but I think we have to have some sort of product that's a little cleaner and provide a few options that we put out for public consultation.
My thought to that would have been that had we given our group another hour, then we all would have come up with double the number of various statements as opposed to less. I wonder if what you're talking about, which I understand, Councillor Turner, is the notion of synthesizing and the like, but I still don't see an issue that that the community can look at some of our thought processes in this. And I think where that may come to the place where you're talking about is as we get community input, because as much as we've joked and had a little bit of fun with each other in terms of these various comments, I mean, they're really well thought out and well considered. And so I'd be mindful of putting those limitations right now. That may and should come as we go forward. But look, they're all brand new and fresh. I think we will have an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to consider them, because we'll get all of this in writing, as has been requested. And then at the same time, we'll get our community input, and then the heavy lifting really does happen, and I think we'll do it there. So yeah, I'm less concerned about giving the community a number of our thoughts, and I'm not even sure that, you know, again, I'll come back to you, Lynn, and that is, if, you know, could we even do kind of a straw vote of some of the things that we liked or some of the key words? I don't know that, but I'm more interested in, now we've done this, what the community is going to say to all of this. Is this too much, too many? Do you have any opinions on that might help us along with this?
Through your worship, I'm not of an opinion that any number is too many. I think it depends on the question you're asking. So if you're asking which statements resonate, which values resonate, we can drive deeper on those questions around which words also resonate. So if people are picking, as I said, statement X, but they like words from statement Y, then you have that information when we come back in March, and you're able to kind of do that work at that time to bring statements together to a single statement.
Can you just explain to us again now? So we'll have our community input, and it might well be that the various community members say, I really like this, or I like that, or come up with something of their own making. What is that next step where we net this down to something that we are prepared to consider as a council and approve either in whole or in the majority? Can you just guide us on that, please?
Your worship, so the next immediate step would be to go out online to seek early feedback online, and we're prepared to report back to you at the January 28th SPPC meeting what some of the early feedback is that you're receiving. Then in March, also at that meeting, we'll be tabling the outcomes, expected results, strategies, and metrics. Then in February is where there's much more significant engagement, both online and the opportunity for in-person. If councillors wish to hold board meetings or community meetings, staff are prepared to assist with that. And you can hear back on the vision, mission, values, but also on the outcomes, expected results. All of that will be reported back to you both through an SPPC report and a presentation at the March 4th SPPC meeting, where you can then begin your debate about which vision, mission, and values resonate with you as a council, as well begin debate on the outcomes and strategies, expected results, et cetera. There are 2 significant meetings in March, that meeting and the March 25th meeting, where there's lots of time for debate. Also the April 8th meeting, lots of time for debate to get to a final product by the end of April.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, I'm going to concur with Councillor Turner here. I think that we've had 3 breakout groups. We haven't even had a discussion about these as a group of the whole. I think we're selling ourselves and this process a little short if we don't have some discussion as a committee of the whole on this tonight. These are very raw products. I can see opportunities. Within our own group, we boiled down multiple opportunities into single ideas that we presented. I think there's an opportunity to do that and maybe get these down to 3 or perhaps 4 in relatively short order tonight. So I think it behooves us all to have that discussion.
Councillor Squire.
Mr. Chair, this is where I get to talk about how much I love strategic planning. And I thought I've been very good up till now. I think, first of all, I think council overestimates the public interest in this strategic planning process by quite a bit. 90 people weighed in December. I'm sure the people who are constant City Hall watchers look at this, but I'm not sure it's the burning issue in the public. So I would be more than happy. First of all, I just dread the idea of spending another 3 hours debating whether this word should go in and that word shouldn't go in with a council that up till now, frankly, I mean, we weren't able to narrow it down at all, which is a reflection on us, I think, not the public. So I'm perfectly happy to have staff go away, work with what we have. I think they can narrow it down, find the key words, and I won't be offended if they take parts of what we came up with and find it's not selling to the public. So, you know, I think this is something that has to go out to the public, and I think it can go out to the public in a narrowed down version. But, you know, sitting here for another 2 hours with debating, well, I like this word, I don't like that word, I want this word, I don't want that word, is of no interest to me.
Councillor Lehman.
I think I concur with Councillor Squire. Personally, I think there's a lot of commonality here and a lot of things that we've come up with. I'd like to have time to read everyone's ideas, think about it, and I'd love to hear feedback from the community, and then have this discussion about how we narrowed it down. Because right now, it's, you know, to force it into an hour, I want to spend some time on this myself, so I have some good feedback to offer the group, and I'd like to hear what the public has to say on these ideas. So I can't really see the point right now of narrowing this down. I don't think it's too overwhelming for the public to look at.
Councillor Van Holst, and then if I might, I am then going to ask Lynn if you would then take us, please, unless there's other commentary after Councillor Van Holst, to take us through the next 2 components, just briefly, because they're on your screen. And it might well be that we have a motion to, in terms of what we want to do with this, in terms of putting this then out as it is to the public, or whether we choose to refine it in some fashion, what that process is. Councillor Van Holst.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like the direction you're suggesting. We are engaged right now in a divergent thinking process, trying to come up with many ideas, and then to be able to include the public in that may be valuable for us, and then get on with the convergent thinking where we from there pick out the things that and find the commonalities. But by sharing this too soon, we may lose out on some ideas that would be sparked in the minds of the public. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much. Ms. Livingston, could you then please take us through then the mission and then the values, and then we'll make some decision of action at that stage?
Your Worship, you can see on your screen now the 5 statements that were provided with respect to the mission, and then if we scroll down a little bit, you'll see the 3 buckets, if you will, of the value pieces. Maybe reduce the spacing so it'll show some.
Thank you for that. You know, it's interesting when you look at it on the screen, it's not as, I'm not sure painful is the word I want to use, but it's certainly not as, I think to express some of the points before, I think there's some common ground that is here. But I'm at the pleasure of council. I think what I would look to do, and we can go either way on this, but that is to have a motion to have this in its entirety put forward to the public. Moved by Councillor Van Holst. Is there a seconder? Councillor Van Meerbergen. Is there comments? And by the way, having said that, we'll ask for comments and questions, but the decision may well be, as you've heard some comments expressed tonight, that we would rather spend more time tonight on this and synthesize the messaging. So is there I'll now open it up to any comments members would like to make, councillors would like to offer. Councillor Helmer.
I think that forwarding what we've come up with to some more public engagement is a good way forward. I think we definitely need to synthesize and narrow down and converge on something in each of these areas. I do think, given the breadth of what we've come up with, especially under the values area, we could be here for quite a while. And I think we're going to try and simplify and narrow it down rather than keep adding things to it. So I think partly because we started the public engagement over December, that essentially coming out with, here's a version that was in the previous plan, here are some of the things we came up with in our initial discussion. There may be some members of the public in particular who are very good at synthesizing things and may submit in part of their feedback, hey, here's a way of stitching these things together. There's 15 of us here. I think if we go out for engagement on these pieces now, we may benefit from people being able to wordsmith it better than we can. Something really great. We didn't do that last time. We never went out to the public with, here's the rough draft of where we're going. We went out with a specific thing and got feedback on that. And that was a bit of a different question than saying, here's a few things that are somewhat related. Can you come up with something that might be a little bit better or tie these things together? So I'm willing to try it, partly because I think engaging over December was a good idea, but a lot of people probably were doing other things. And if we go back now, we can get another group of people who might engage now. And we do have the time. We're not on the same aggressive schedule we were on last time. I think we've got the time to do this kind of interim step.
Any other comments or questions then, before we call the question? Yeah. Oh, pardon me, Councillor Morgan.
Yes, when I look at the triangle that Ms. Livingston presented, we're at the top. We're setting a vision, sets direction, mission, articulates purpose, values, expresses how the corporation operates. The next thing is strategic areas of focus. I actually think that that's where I would prefer to spend most of my time with the public on. That is, where do you want to focus over the next 4 years? I would much prefer us just narrow this down and finalize the overarching direction and the purpose, even if we get some feedback and change it later, and spend most of our time talking about where do you want to go and what do you want us to do under those broad parameters. I know that we have lots of time to do this, but I think that, we all just ran an election, we all just talked with a lot of people. I would hope that we can set some general direction, which is a little fewer than 5 at the very least. Maybe we can, leave the values list a little longer, because that's really a list of all the things we feel are important. But really that general direction, I would hope that we could spend some time tonight just narrowing down that first piece, if possible, rather than sending out all of these to the public, knowing that there's still an opportunity to engage on that. So that would be my thoughts.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just picking up on Councillor Morgan's thoughts, I really think that the areas of focus are really the important piece of the strategic plan. I think it really would be beneficial for us to have a discussion as a group tonight, because yes, there are a lot of commonalities. I don't think it would be that difficult, and I'm not suggesting that we need to be here till midnight, because there's a lot of, frankly, overlap in some of those statements, and I think we could very easily take 2 or 3 statements and narrow them down a little bit, removing some of that redundancy and presenting a better product for community feedback, because we're going to be asking the community for a whole lot of feedback over the next couple months on this plan. And the broad values and mission statements part of it is not the meat and potatoes that most people I think are going to be interested in. They're going to be interested in where the emphasis is on fixing our roads, what we're doing with cultural development and things like that.
It's interesting. We've spent probably a good 40 minutes discussing whether we would discuss it. But I'd like to turn, there's a motion on the floor, but could I ask you, Lynn, if I could please, there's divergent but connected various statements. If this goes forward as it is to the public, in your experience, does this confuse people? What's your sense of having several different statements in each of the three key focus areas? What do you think the impact would that be? I think that might help us with some of our deliberation on this.
Your Worship, my feeling would be that it depends on how you position it in the question that you're asking. So if we're positioning that this is Council's early thinking around the vision, mission, values, here are some ideas they'd like to hear back from the public on which statements resonate. Are there statements that could be synthesized? Are there words that are more important than others? Then I think if you're clear, that's the answer. Those are the answers you'll get back. I think the positioning that it is your early thinking is quite important. So people understand that it is just that, and you're seeking feedback to help you do further work around the ultimate vision, mission, and values statements.
Thank you. Then as we call the question, may I say that that what this means if we vote in favor right now, I think it would have to be with that with that comment that these are, as we take it to the public, that these are our early thoughts on this. However, if this is voted down, presumably what that would mean is we would discuss some of these issues still this evening. So if I could turn your attention to the screen, please. The clerk's just advised me that the entire document will be attached, so you'll see some of the words there, but it is much more extensive as you'd presume it would be.
Closing the vote, the motion passes 10-5.
Thank you very much. Lynn, thank you for your hard work on this as well. Do you have any final comments?
I just have a few closing comments about the next engagement steps, Your Worship. So on your slide, you'll see right now that this is the engagement we just completed. We'll now move immediately into the next piece, which will be online only. Where again, we'll position it as early thoughts from council, seek feedback on your work this evening, and we will present that feedback at the January 28th meeting for information only. We'll then enter into the next phase, which is both online and in person. And also, as I said, on the 28th, we'll be tabling for you the outcomes, expected results, strategies and metrics, those pieces that you're wishing to see in terms of what your focus will be. And we'll table that for your consideration and then enter into an engagement process. So during that month, if you wish to have a ward or community meeting, please let us know and we will support you in that process. And as I indicated, we will be presenting the results of the feedback for the March 4th SPPC meeting. This is a reiteration of that. We'll also be sending to you some communication assets to assist you if you'd like to help get the word out to your constituents, that people can chime in on this and provide some feedback. Then you will also have those tools in the next day or two. And again, so you'll see Cheryl's contact information there if you wish to have a ward or community meeting in February that we can help you with. And we will also, as I indicated after council, send you some information so you can proceed with what you'd like to do in terms of community engagement. And with that, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Can you just stand by for a moment? You have a question to be directed to Ms. Livingston? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, Ms. Livingston, for all the work that you've done here. I am kind of anxious to get the values, mission, and vision that we discussed here as soon as possible, and I'm just wondering when we can expect to get these statements.
Ms. Livingston?
So I'm wondering if Ms. Westlake Powers might like to speak to that.
Thank you. Through the chair, that entire document will be attached to the report, which you'll receive tomorrow at council.
Thank you, and let me reiterate Councillor Hopkins' comments. You and your staff have done a great job. Thank you. Can I turn your attention now to items for direction 4.1, the 2019 budget process. I'm going to ask the clerk in a moment to read the motion, and rather than, and then I would like to ask for a mover and seconder of this motion. Why don't we just start at that, and then if you would like me to provide some background on this, I'm happy to do that. But if I could ask the clerk to read the motion, please.
That Councillor Jay Morgan be appointed as the council lead for the 2019 budget process, acting as budget chair with duties including coordination of 2019 budget activities with the civic administration and the chairing of the strategic priorities and planning committee meetings where discussion and consideration of the adoption of the 2019 budget takes place.
Is there a mover? Councillor Helmer, seconded by Councillor Lewis. Any comments or questions? Councillor Squire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support this. I spent some time thinking about this. I spent a lot of time thinking about this because the budget is probably one of the most important things we do as a council. And as people will probably know, I'm always a person who wants to make sure the authority and power is vested where it is by elections, and that's in the seat of the hands of council and councillors. So I'm always wary of deviating from that. But I've talked to Councillor Morgan, and I'm satisfied that he understands sort of that split responsibility. Responsibility as a councillor, and if he takes on this role, it's a more neutral function from my point of view, in terms of bringing information to council, being open about that, and receiving information from council. But I mentioned to him, and I mentioned in front of staff so they're clear, that I think if an individual councillor wants to go to staff and say, look, I have something here I need to know, I have something here I want to bring forward, I would certainly expect, and I know it will happen, get that full support of staff in working with that individual councillor. Otherwise, you're going to have Councillor Morgan facilitating the work of council, but he's also going to be having people like me and other people coming to him saying, well, I have something I want to bring forward. I think we're going to have to maintain that ability to do that on our own, but also have the ability of Councillor Morgan to sort of facilitate the resources. So on that basis, I'm comfortable with it. But I reserve the right as a councillor to make my own decisions about the budget, bring my own ideas forward, and consult with my constituents. And I know Councillor Morgan would never have a problem with that. And of course, I will try to influence Councillor Morgan as much as I can in thinking the same way as me. And I totally don't have a lot of hope that that's going to happen. So understanding that, I'm fine with it, but I think he's taking on a very difficult role, wearing the hat of a councillor and doing the work of the budget chair. But the mayor's decided that he would like to see that happen, and Councillor Morgan's willing to take it on, so I'll support it.
Thank you, Councillor Squire. Mayor?
Thanks very much. You were unusually eloquent, I thought, Councillor Squire, and I appreciate the comments, actually, in the most sincere way. I think you've discussed it very well. I want to give my rationale for having done this. As you will know, that when the multi-year budget process occurred, and for the majority of council who are incumbent now, you experienced this, and at that time, the previous mayor indicated that he wanted to give, he wanted to add some expertise and asked Councillor Morgan to proceed on this basis, but didn't do it with the support of council. And not that I think council objected, but I thought in the spirit of transparency and in the spirit of the way that that we as councillors and members of this council want to run our component of city responsibility, that we do this with full knowledge and support. And so I'm quite keen. I certainly appreciate the fact that Councillor Morgan has undertaken the responsibility. This is the 4th year of the 4-year budget cycle. And actually, you were quite eloquent, if I can say, Councillor Squire, in that what you said, which is true, is that councillors are A, going to make up their own minds, and B, receive whatever support they need from staff, and make whatever recommendations, changes, advice, comments. But we have a strong resource in Councillor Morgan. I just want to say thank you for undertaking that, presuming that this passes through. So those are just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other powers I have as chair? Okay, I'll leave it there.
The parking spot doesn't change. Any other comments with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, then I will turn your attention to the screen, please.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 15-0.
Thank you, and thank you again, Councillor Morgan. This will be a great 4th-year cycle. By the way, for the benefit, just as an information point, you'll note that we did that when the multi-year budget cycle was established, it was established with 3 years of the previous council and 1 year of the new council, and that's the way on a 4-year cycle it will carry on as well. So I think we'll all have benefits to participate in this process, so thank you. Can I now turn your attention to deferred matters and additional business? I'm not aware of any. Are there any? Then seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Oh, excuse me. I apologize. I've got the old agenda here. Thank you. We are not going to adjourn. We have a confidential issue, and I would like to move us to confidential session. Is there a mover? Councillor Helmer, seconded by Councillor Van Meerbergen. All those in favor? This is do we have to go to the screen on this? I apologize. Attention to the screen, please. I'll get this.
Closing the vote, that motion carries 15-0.
So we're about to go to closed session. Before we do, one of the things we'd like to do is advise the public why it is we are going into closed session. I will turn your attention to the clerk to explain what it is for the benefit of the public, what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As this was added to the added agenda, I just want to make sure that the public is aware. It was not on the regular agenda, but the added agenda. So it is a matter pertaining to the proposed or pending disposition of land by the municipality, including communications necessary for that purpose, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, commercial and financial information that belongs to the municipality and has monetary value, or potential monetary value in a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instructions to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of the municipality.
Well, that's clear. Thank you. Why don't we now move to closed session, please? This is our last item of business, and so if I can advise the public that it is our intention to close the meeting out of closed session. There will be no other new business that we will discuss.